Joining us on the line is none other than U.S. Senator David Perdue from the great state of Georgia. Senator, how are you today?
I'm great, Bill. I hope you are.
Great. Well, looks like you've been in the Senate for almost 2 months now. How's it going?
Slowly. We've hit the ground running, but, it takes a while to get things done with the rules of the Senate. But we've done a few things. We passed the Keystone. We've sent that to the president. We passed a bill to push back the regulators a little bit for our farmers, the TRIA Act. And I've co-sponsored some bills. So we're getting our feet on the ground and finding our way through here to really, I hope over time, fight to make a difference. We've got to change the direction of our country, Bill.
Well, I understand that you're the chair of the agricultural subcommittee, so it looks like you're going to be involved in agriculture. Will probably help out us a lot here, being represented in Washington, D.C., in this neck of the woods here.
It's very important that I get on the agriculture committee. We've had a sitting senator on that committee for 100 years, and I wanted on that committee, and they were gracious enough to let me be on there. But yeah, I'm the chair of the Conservation and Forestry Subcommittee, and I'm excited about that because, agriculture is our biggest industry in Georgia. It's half of our economy. And I met with Gary Black last week, who's our commissioner of agriculture in Georgia, and we're working together with all the farmers in Georgia to really help pull back on some of these regulations and make sure that we have a healthy ag business going forward. I think we've got some tremendous opportunities in exports and things like that we can get at these next couple of years.
Tell us a little bit about this DHS funding bill right now, this big fight in the Senate that's going on. I wanted to, maybe you could possibly address some of these amendments that are a part of this DH funding bill. Would you vote for the bill if those amendments were stripped out of the DHS funding bill?
Well, Bill, I personally have two objectives. One is, we've got to make sure that we provide for our national security. I mean, the Department of Homeland Security right now, we've got to make sure that that's funded. And the House bill does that. The only thing the House bill does is it limits the funding for the executive action that the president ordered here a month or so ago and a couple months ago. And so that's what it does. So the second objective that we have is to really push back on this illegal, unconstitutional executive order that the president issued on amnesty here. And so those are two things we're trying to do. In the Senate, the Democrats are blocking us from even getting it on the floor to debate. And we can't even talk about amendments yet. And so we're trying to go back to the House, get the House to send us a bill that the Democrats will at least engage on so we can send something to the president. But the two objectives are to make sure we provide for our national security and push back on this illegal executive order that the president issued. And the Democrats are the ones that are threatening the effective funding of the Department of Homeland Security. So, this is one time where they're blocking the process here, puts us in great jeopardy.
Well, they have filibustered this for the third time this week.
Right.
So I guess, is there a plan that you would endorse going forward? Are you going to continue to push this, or is there a different course that you're willing to take? Well,
the bottom line, Bill, is that Washington, this is another example of the dysfunction of Washington. It's one of the reasons I got in this race. The fight for Georgians to get some change up here. Washington's got to stop playing politics with our national security. First of all, as I said, my top priority is to make sure that we fund our national security capabilities. And actually, the House bill does that. We do everything we can to prevent funds from implementing the president's illegal executive actions. That's the second priority. This president has, issued what we think are unconstitutional executive orders, and this one is unconscionable. Without any debate in the House or the Senate, he has issued this amnesty bill, which, is totally unconstitutional.
Well, it's great that you're keeping their feet to the fire. It's interesting. A lot of these Democrats who spoke out against executive amnesty just voted for it. So that's a plus.
Well, it is, and the president himself said 22 times that he didn't have the authority to do this, and yet he went ahead and did it anyway. Right after he did this, the day after he made his speech, calling for bipartisan support from the new Senate and the new House, back in November. So, it's very obvious that the Democrats are the ones that are blocking the process up here. Harry Reid blocked over 300 bills that had been passed in the House over the last 4 years from ever being debated in the Senate, and right now they're filibustering this bill to keep us from getting it on the floor of the Senate and have an active debate. I mean, that's just not the way the process is supposed to work.
When Harry Reid was majority leader, he changed the Senate rules from a 60-vote threshold to a much lower than that. Is there any temptation or thoughts of possibly going back to those rules so you wouldn't need 60 votes, you would need a whole lot less?
Well, what he did is he changed it on judiciary appointments, not Supreme Court, but on judiciary. He moved it from the traditional 60 to 50 with a nuclear option without a debate, he violated the rule, basically. And unfortunately, that becomes the precedent. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking at we're debating right now inside our caucus how to best change that back if we decide to do that. The bigger issue right now is we're trying to get on the things that can get people working again, Bill. I mean, there's a new sense of urgency, or I'm trying to bring a new sense of urgency. And, you know, we did get on the Keystone Pipeline and pass that. I proposed a fair tax bill up here, actually co-sponsored one. You know, we're going to repeal Obamacare again in Senate. I think Cruz has a bill that I've co-sponsored. The REINS Act, Balanced Budget Amendment. The first thing I did, though, when I got up here, Bill, is I co-sponsored a bill on term limits. Now, a lot of this stuff is just not popular. None of these ideas are popular up here in Washington, but they're important to the people of Georgia. And that's why I was set up here, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. I'm not part of this Washington scene here. I have to deal with it, but you know, I'm from Georgia, and I'm fighting for the people back there to change the direction of our country so we can put people to work. You know, Bill, we have fewer people working right now as a percentage of the economy than any time since Jimmy Carter was president. And yet this president in his State of the Union was bragging about how great the economy is doing. I got to tell you, I don't see it. In the last 4 years alone, or 5 years alone, we've allowed 4 million women to fall into poverty in America. It's just, we've got to get big government out of the way, push back on these regulators, unlock our energy resources, and finally get at tax reform.
If we could talk a little bit about the Loretta Lynch nomination, would you support blocking a vote for her confirmation?
Well, you know, I have said that I'm impressed with her background. I met with her privately. We have I've interviewed her in the hearing, and we have submitted some questions. And I've submitted questions as follow-up because in those hearings I was troubled by some things that I heard, and we've submitted questions. Until I get the answers back on those questions, I'm not, I have not said publicly which way I'm going to go on this thing.
Does it bother you that she believes that some federal laws don't need to be followed, specifically with Barack Obama's executive amnesty?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like you are really pushing to repeal Obamacare. I follow your social media quite a bit, Mr. Perdue. There's a lot of different Republicans talking about replacement plans. Some people feel they're good replacement plans. Some people feel they're Obamacare light. Where do you see this debate shaping up with Obamacare and it being pushed forward?
Well, we want to put one more time. We got a new Congress, new House, and new Senate. We want to establish for the record and for the people of our country that we do not support this bill. I mean, it's insidious. It's destroyed 2.5 million jobs. They talk about 6 million people having insurance now didn't have it before, and having signed up. I'm one of those people, but I'm personally one of those people that got canceled too. So the reason that I had to sign up for Obamacare is that I was canceled before. And here in the Senate, I have a health insurance plan that's part of Obamacare. And I can tell you, it's a lot more expensive than what I had before. My policy before I got elected had doubled because of Obamacare. We're going to put a bill in, and it'll pass to repeal Obamacare. There are replacement plans. And we have this King versus Burwell case that should be adjudicated, Bill, in June, somewhere around June, we're told. We're very hopeful that that judge will rule in our favor, and it will say that this is unconstitutional, and that we will then have an opportunity to offer up an alternative. And those alternatives are out there right now. The problem in 2000, 2006, when the Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the White House, they didn't put up their version. They had a lot they debated about. I personally like Congressman Tom Price's bill that he's had up here for a few years. It does a lot of the things that you need. It does all the things you need to do to improve health care, reduce costs, which is something that Obamacare does not do. So we're going to push that very heavily here in the next couple of months as we lead up to this King versus Burwell judgment.
We're hearing a lot about transportation issues in the state of Georgia. I know this is a state issue right now, but there's also talk at the federal level about adding gas taxes possibly or increasing that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, personally, I'm on the budget committee. I fought hard to get on the budget committee, and we're right now trying to put together the overall budget for the year. But let me just philosophically tell you that I don't like these one-off taxes. It seems to me that what we have to deal with right now in this budget is priorities. Just like every business person has to come to a balanced budget, create an opportunity to make profits. In the budget committee, we're wrestling with right now those very priorities to make sure build our infrastructure. This is one of the reasons why you have a federal government is to provide for the national defense and to make sure you have an infrastructure so your economy can operate. We're told we're spending about a third of what we should be spending just to maintain our infrastructure, roads, ports, bridges, rail. I mean, it's taken us 17 years, Bill, and it's not a monetary issue. 17 years to get the deepening of the Savannah port approved, and we're losing our competitive edge because of that. So, with regard to the highway funding, we're looking at that as a serious priority within the budget process to make sure that we can support that piece of our infrastructure.
We've heard for years that it is going bankrupt as far as I don't know what you want to call it, the whole highway federal transportation situation. Is there a way to get it more solvent?
Well, what they did is they didn't do the math in the beginning. The gas tax was a penny, or it was in pennies per gallon, not as a percent. And as gasoline went up, it stayed the same. So as a percentage of consumption, it went down. The problem is they never the funding formula for that, the way they did it, and this is one of the reasons I don't like doing that way, is that it didn't account for increased usage and so forth. And so here we are. The Highway Trust Fund is bankrupt. It's partially a state issue, but this overall infrastructure thing is of major concern to me. To get the economy growing again, we got to make sure we're competitive with the rest of the world. It took us 17 years to deepen that port, Bill, as an example, as I said. In the meantime, in 3 or 4 years, China built one of their largest ports from scratch. Just backfilled out into the LSC, and right there outside of, in the LSC is probably their third largest port that they built in 3 or 4 years.
Well, Senator David Perdue, we appreciate you stopping by, and I get the sense talking to you today that you have not contracted Potomac fever yet, so I think that's good news.
No, I got to tell you, that is not going to happen. I've been offered the Kool-Aid, but I have not drunk the Kool-Aid. I came here on a mission to make America better for my kids and grandkids, for our kids and grandkids, and I got to tell you, I'm going to fight every day to get this economy going again to solve this debt crisis, Bill.
Amen. My baby boy was born Sunday, so yeah, I'm fighting for my kids too, and I think that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Yes, sir.
Well, Phil, you and I we just can't be members of the first generation in the history of America that has to tell our kids that we're leaving you an America that's worse off than our parents left us. And I'm up here fighting to make sure that doesn't happen.
Senator David Perdue from the great state of Georgia, we appreciate you stopping by here in South Georgia today.
Bill, look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.